Hey everybody, my name is Nelson Chow. I'm from Long Island, New York, and I'm here today with Navi Consulting with our first video in the series. We're calling it Getting Started with Your College Essays. So a little information about me. I'm a sophomore at Princeton University, planning on concentrating in molecular biology with a certificate in the Global Health Program. On campus, I'm a member of the sailing team. I'm communications chair for the PACE Council for Civic Values, which overlooks community service and civic engagement in Princeton and students' communities. And I'm also the service chair for the Asian American Student Association. So these videos, there will be more upcoming in the near future. And you can always reach out to Navi Consulting for any questions you may have about the college application process, about standardized testing, about schoolwork. They're great with all sorts of consulting, whatever help you need academically, they're there, and they provide great services. So I'm going to jump right into it with where to get started. So if you're like me, I was a first generation student, so I wasn't really in a position where I knew exactly what I was doing. My parents weren't really able to directly guide me through the process. It can be very overwhelming and it's very easy to get lost. So the first thing I want to kind of talk about is where you're even going to be applying to schools. So the main one that you've probably heard of is the Common Application. So the Common App, which you'll see on the page here, is I'd want to say the most popular one that people use. Most schools are on there with exceptions, and we'll talk about those in a second. So Google Common App, or you could go to this website, which is just www.commonapp.org, and create an account. And from then on, you can add your schools to your lists. And the UI is pretty simple. So it's very easy to set up and start getting ready to apply to colleges. And we'll talk about this again more in the future. Another good one that's pretty popular is the Coalition app. So the page looks like this, which you can go www.coalitionforcollegeaccess.org, and the front page kind of looks like this. So this one's a little less known than the Common App, but it works for a lot of schools as well. So I don't suggest anybody really do this. I don't recommend it. But for some people, they end up applying to a lot of schools. For example, I ended up applying to 21 schools. And I actually ran out of space on my Common App. So that's what I used the Coalition app for, was to apply to schools that wouldn't fit in my Common App. It also has most colleges. You can use this one if you prefer the interface on this. I personally prefer the Common App, but that's entirely up to you. Different people have different opinions on that. I know we talked about some exceptions to the case of the Common App and the Coalition app. Two of the most popular ones would probably be MIT and Georgetown. So, for example, MIT has their own way of applying to the school. And you can check this with any school. You can simply just go on Google and go apply to insert school. So, for example, this one's apply to MIT. And when you go on their page, it'll give you more information on it. But the premise here is that for schools like MIT and Georgetown, they actually have their own application. For example, you see right here, there's a link to create a Georgetown application. They have their own way to do it that's not through the Common App or through the Coalition app. So I'd recommend whenever you're looking at a school to just Google apply to insert school and get some more information on exactly what it is that they want you to do. Another good one that I'm just going to mention briefly because I'm from New York is that Apply SUNY allows you to apply to SUNY schools. There's also SUNY schools on the Common App. The Common App, again, like I said, has most schools, your Ivy Leagues, most of your top tier schools, most of your state schools, the SUNYs. Most of your schools are all going to be on there. There's a few exceptions, but again, you can Google that to find out more information on that. So the interface is pretty straightforward once you get on there. Just kind of follow the instructions, set up your account, and we can get going. So over the course of the next few videos, there's 3 types of essays that I kind of want to go over. So the first one being the personal essay, or the open-ended one. People will call it the Common Application essay. It's basically the one where it's open-ended and you can write. So this, we will have a video on exactly how to select the topic, how to write about your topic, how to best present the essay in the near future. The second one that I want to talk about is the Why Us essay. So the Why Us essay, you can see, for example, on Yale's page, one of the questions that they'll ask is, what is it about Yale that has led you to apply? So this is the Why Us essay. Why do you want to go there? Why do you want to apply to Yale? And a lot of schools have these in their application processes, and a lot of it involves just researching beforehand, getting information on the school so that you can confidently write about it. And we'll talk about this more in a future video that will be dedicated to the Why Us essay. And the final essay that I kind of want to go over is more of a broad one. It's ones with specific prompts. For example, like I said, I go to Princeton. This was one of the essays on the most recent application, and it's at Princeton we value diverse perspectives and the ability to have respectful dialogue about difficult issues. Share a time when you had a conversation with a person or a group of people about a difficult topic. What insight did you gain, and how would you incorporate that knowledge into your thinking in the future? So this is a very specific prompt where it asks you a very specific question. There's good ways to go about this, and again, we will go into this in a future video, going specifically over essays like this where there's a specific prompt. Now, the next thing I kind of want to just mention to you guys is that something that I was always told in the college application process is that failing to plan is planning to fail. It is so important to have everything, or as much as you can, planned out in your college application process. I like to break down writing your college essays into multiple phases. So phase 1 being brainstorming. You're thinking of ideas, you're thinking of topics, what you want to write about. Stage 2, writing. You're writing it, you're writing your initial draft. Stage 3, modifying it. You're going through, you're adding thoughts, you're taking things out that might convolute the essence of the paper. You're fixing the draft, moving thoughts, rewriting unnecessary sentences, rewriting good sentences, changing things into exactly what you want to convey to the admissions office. And the fourth final stage is the proofreading and the polishing stage. Now, I'd like to quickly mention that during the proofreading and polishing phase, it's important that you have a fresh eye. So I wouldn't edit your essay, say for an hour, and then try and stare at it and find more things to proofread. You need to take breaks. You need to look at it with a fresh eye, because you're going to miss things. Things are going to go right past you, and you're not going to notice that they were there and there to be fixed. So I'd kind of dedicate about 1 or 2 days to each of these steps, obviously depending on how much time you have. But it's important to remember that you have multiple essays to write. You're not just writing one essay, and you're going to have to bounce back and forth between different essays for different schools as well. So we can discuss this more in the future, but moving into exactly how we are going to write these essays, there's 2 strategies that I kind of like to explain to people whenever we're talking about how do you do the college essay. Like I said, you're going to have to write a lot of essays. There's going to be multiple schools, and schools will have multiple essays each. And so you're going to need to figure out a way to do it in a way that works for you. And so I'm going to give you 2 examples of ways to do them, and they're both ways that I did them, and I'd encourage you to try both and figure out which one you like. So I'm going to use an example of swimming in a swim meet. Now, I swam when I was younger, but I never did swim on like a swim team. But I'm just going to kind of pretend that I'm in this position where we're going to talk about swimming and swimming in a race. So the first method I called the zoom-in method. So the zoom-in method entails starting very broad and then moving inwards to describe things. So I'll give you an example. We are looking at a swim race, right? So it's a swim race. The first part of the paper essay, right, would be that we are working on getting ready for the race, right? Now, this can start wherever. This could start when you are at home and getting ready to drive to the swim meet. This could start on the pool deck, right, when you're about to enter the water and get started. Whatever it may be. But we're going to go broad, and we're going to say getting ready for the race at home. How about that? So then we could talk about, getting on the pool deck and putting on your swim gear, right? And then we could talk about the start of the race, which you could also just start your essay there, right? The start of the race, and then the middle of the race, and then the finish. And then maybe we want to end with lessons learned or a lesson learned. And then at this point, you have all your broad ideas of your paper, and all that you need to do is fill in the in-between. You're zooming in. For example, between getting ready for the race at home and getting on the pool deck, my mom and I stopped at Starbucks to get coffee, right? And then between the start of the race and the middle of the race, I looked to the lane on the right, and I noticed that Bobby, my friend from 8th grade, was also swimming in the same race, say. And then, let's say in the middle of the race, I had a cramp, and I felt like I couldn't keep swimming, right? The finish could be, I told myself to never quit, and I finished off the swim strong, say. And the lesson learned is that you never quit, and that's an attitude I have in life, is never quit. Now you can zoom in again. My mom and I stopped at Starbucks to get coffee. I can't swim without caffeine, say. The start of the race, maybe between the start of the race and the middle of the race, my goggles fogged up and I was thrown off, right? Now, I'm not saying that your college essay should be structured like this or even talking about a subject like this in this manner, but the idea of starting with these broad ideas and filling in the lines between and filling in the thoughts will help you get to a point where you have an essay. Because the hardest part of an essay is oftentimes the start of it, writing. Sometimes the writer's block just kicks in and you just can't even get one sentence on the page. This helps alleviate that by getting all of your thoughts on the page in order, and all you need to do is keep filling it in and filling it in and filling it in. And you'll notice that a lot of these sentences are very basic, they're not very complex, they don't sound sophisticated, and that's fine for now because we're writing a draft. Again, remember, we want to brainstorm, draft, or write, and then modify. So we can work on the phrasing, we can work on the wording, we can work on the order of things after we've done this. Now, the second method I want to talk about stuck with me from middle school when my teacher used to say, spill the beans before a test. So what's meant by this is you want to spill the beans of your knowledge or your mind onto the paper. You want to just start writing. And it's not in any specific order. It's not in any specific manner. You're just writing. So, for example, let's just start with the swim race again. And let's just say, what is the first thing that comes to my mind? I've decided that I want to write about the swim race. What is the first thing that comes to my mind? So I think, oh, yeah, right. Remember when my goggles fogged up? So my goggles fogged up. Then I say, right, I felt caffeinated because I had gotten coffee before, right? And then I remember that cramp I had. I remember the cramp I had on my left side. And then I remember looking to Bobby, who was in my race, and he was significantly further ahead of me, say. So now, all of these things are kind of just items that happen in no specific order, but they're things that happen and the things that I want to get on the page. So I type, and I spill the beans, and I just keep going. I keep going, say, the lesson learned is to never give up. I apply that to everything in life. And just let your writing take you anywhere. I apply that to everything in life. And then, I don't know, maybe apply that to, for example, in my academic life, I oftentimes refuse to back down from a difficult question, say, and just keep writing and just let it flow. And remember, this is the writing and the drafting phase. And eventually we can modify, we can get rid of sentences, we can add sentences, we can modify them and change them. So that's the spill the beans method. After you've spilled the beans, we organize and we rephrase and we modify. So those are the two ways that I found were helpful to write my college essays, and I'd encourage you to try both and see which one works for you. So again, there will be more videos like this in the near future. Then the next one I plan on doing is the why and how do you do the personal essay. Then the how do you do the why us essay, how do we do the essays with specific prompts. And something that I do want to discuss later on is word count, because word count was a massive problem for me when I was writing my papers. I would either go way under or way over, and it was so difficult to get in the perfect range. So that's kind of it. That's all I have for you today for this video. Remember that Navi Consulting can always be reached. They have amazing services for college consulting, for test prep, for academic tutoring, whatever your academic needs are. They have and offer great services for you, and you can always reach out to them with any questions. There will be more videos like this in the near future, as I mentioned, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in today, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.